Right, everyone. We're doing leadership tonight. What do you think of putting this man's picture there as an intro to leadership? Good, bad, indifferent, nut job, insane genius, responsible for the collapse of the universe. What do you guys think of Elon Musk? Any comments? So you reckon he's a bad leader, arrogant? Yeah, I think he comes across as arrogant, but it also might be the fact that he is on the sort of autism spectrum. I agree with Tanya. Yeah, very wealthy, indifferent, and it's quite interesting because when we look at this, the sort of old style, yeah, autocrat, and all he worries about is profit over people. One of the women in Tesla, there was a TV interview, and she said, initially we made some mistakes, and he fired her on the show because we don't make mistakes at Tesla. He is a strange character, and I think, yeah, I think insane genius, evil genius. I don't know what the right term is. And when you look at this here, just read some of this stuff. And what has happened with Twitter, or now X? It's disappeared. It loses hand over fist. In fact, 100%, Marcus. That's awful leadership. But also this idea that I know everything. Um, Okay, guys, and then in terms of some of the other stuff there, yeah, look at this extremely hardcore, leave the company, yeah, only exceptional performance, and you can see the other bits in that. I mean, this one disturbs me immensely. Is that you literally just a cog in the machine, and like a cog in a machine, we can replace it with another one, which is not true. I come from a world where I honestly believe that some people are irreplaceable. Okay, so why do I have a picture of a woman in a leadership position? What is it like working for a woman leader? Are there enough women leaders? What is the role of women in society? Anyone want to comment? Oh gosh, people have got scared all of a sudden. Yeah, honestly, it is massively unequal. I think in terms of pay, positions, pensions, all of that, women are at a lower position. It is massively unfair. It is massively unfair. I believe that's the way it should be, though. I'm obviously kidding. I'm trying to keep a straight face. Yeah, it's over the years. I don't worry, I'm being recorded. I'll just blame the drugs, guys. I'll just blame the drugs. But it is, and the reality of female leadership is when a man behaves in a particular way, he is seen as a tough leader. If a woman behaves in exactly the same way, she is seen as that stinging thing with a needle, and when it has an itch to scratch. And we don't judge women and female leaders along the same lines. Oh my gosh, Tyra Lee says women leaders are erratic. Tyra Lee, do you want to explain that? But I obviously agree with you. You want to explain that? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Henny Belson has been fired for being a sexist pig. Have a look at that one, guys. Do we care about that when we look for jobs? Let's start in South Africa. Or are people so desperate that they'll work for anyone? Exactly, Tyree, spot on. Guys, is that still something people value? Is that the kind of thing South Africans care about? Yeah, I agree with you, Mandy. The unemployment levels are so high, and with high levels of unemployment, we get desperation. And when we get desperation, we get people going for anything that will pay, and that gives us exploitation. So you have this vicious circle, and your Elon Musk autocrat people tend to survive. What I find interesting here takes a political stand but runs sweatshops. I don't know if you guys know about, hold on a second, mining. Hold on a second, let me see if this will eye you. Okay, so not happy about that one. Sorry about that, guys. My fiber dropped again. This is infuriating, absolutely bloody infuriating. Very political. That's an interesting comment, Chelsea. And it is. But what I find quite interesting, and unfortunately, I now am being blocked from finding this, but cobalt, have a glance at this. Now, what I find amazing is you take a political stance and fantastic on you, but you draw your cobalt from mines like that. You'll see over there, there is a tunnel. Oh, flipping hell, I'm not sharing. I'm an idiot again. Okay, so hold on a second. So these are cobalt mines. I don't know how many people know about the story of the cobalt mines in the DRC. In Congo. So these cobalt mines use significant numbers of children, and you'll see the reason they use children is that they dig those tunnels into the ground, and children can actually access those tunnels far easier than adults can, and that's what they're looking for. Now, what often happens, and I can share this and you can have a read of it, is that those tunnels collapse. And when tunnels collapse, the attitude is tough luck. The attitude is tough luck. We can find another child that will come and work for us. And the simple truth is, Apple uses that cobalt. So you have political statements about things, but you have sweatshops. You run these cobalt mines feed your organization. So I find it interesting that Apple has this moment where they are now political and concerned about stuff. Look at that, guys. Imagine being someone who works there. Now, if you want to do a comparison, let me search this site. Um, Now you look at the website and you think, okay, look how nice that looks. Absolutely amazing. And then you've got that it's awful, Charles. Absolutely awful. And it's not just Apple, it's Samsung, it's most the car manufacturers take from there. It is a disdainful thing. But I find it interesting that this person will take a political stance on a range of things, but in reality, they are ultimately responsible. And yes, it gives people opportunities to work and find work, but not work that where they are not getting exploited. Sorry, I'm having a moment. Okay, guys, and then the last one. Where are the Trump supporters here? Where are the Trump supporters? Let me see. Let me see from the names who's a Trump supporter. Jeez, dude. You know what Trump said about countries in Africa? Jeez, today. You seriously a Trump supporter, Walter? Yeah, good luck passing this course because I hate him. Guys, who is following the Trump trial, numerous trials? Is he a great leader or is he a scumbag that is selling snake oil? Walter, tell me, why is he a great leader? Whoa, everyone's so quiet tonight. Walter, yeah, that's it, Tyrone. He is a piece of white trash. He is, can I just say, he is a role model. He absolutely is a role model because he proves to us that you don't have to be poor to be white trash. He's a leader. You don't have to be poor to be white trash. I mean, that oak is a trendsetter. Let's be honest. Um, I thought it was funny. It's not my joke. I stole it from somewhere. Sorry, guys. Like everything else I say. Let me just close this rubbish here. Right, let's look at tonight's bits and pieces. Well, he's not afraid of saying, but he is a coward. Look at those people on January 6th. He was going to march with them and he drove in the opposite direction. Anyone can say whatever they want, but it is doing what matters. Saying means nothing. He's an absolute white trash coward, in my opinion. But everyone's allowed to have their own opinion, Walter, but not in my class, obviously. Okay, Walter. Okay, guys, let's look at leadership. Right. So, in terms of leadership, I think great leaders have the ability to do that. They have the ability to get people to behave in a particular way. Now, why I like the fact that non-coercive is included in that term there. It's the notion that you get people who rule by fear. So someone like Vladimir Putin, if you literally take a stance against Putin, you will be killed. So that this to me is not leadership in the slightest. The same with Trump. He fires, he sets people up in positions to protect him. Now, when we think of the kind of leaders that do that, give me some names of people who you believe are good leaders. Yeah, Tyra Lee. Imagine you've got 330 million and you've got Dopey Joe and scumbag Trump. Yeah, absolutely. Obama, big fan of Obama. That to me is what a true leader is. Yeah, Sia, absolutely, 100%. I mean, Sia is, yeah, in my mind, Sia is our new Mandela. Um, just a gentleman, and I don't think he just says the right stuff. He behaves the right way. And people with wonderful qualities, people who are role models, people who you can look up to. In terms of leadership as a property, it is that set of characteristics that essentially make an individual a leader. So if I have to ask you, what are the traits of a great leader? And remember, these are very individual questions because another person might look at Obama and say, "Oh, not a good leader," because it's eye of the beholder stuff. There are people in America who think that Trump can walk on water, which again, it's eye of the beholder. What are the characteristics we attribute to a good leader? What are some of the characteristics or traits? It's very quiet tonight, guys. Some of the characteristics or traits. Absolutely. So honesty, reliability, fairness, morals and values, and those are important. And morals driven by society and your own values. Integrity, absolutely. Integrity in essence is the stuff that breeds trust. So if we take all of those six together, that's what gives trust in a leader. The one that I would like to add to that is consistency and real compassion. It's an understanding of people. It is somebody who lives for others. It's somebody who lives through others, who draws their self-importance through making other people feel important. So, guys, when we look at leaders, yeah, so it really is the idea of not relying on force. Give me examples of leaders that have to rely on force and do so very well. Leaders that lead by force and seem to survive. Yeah, Zuma, Putin, Malema, Obama. Ah, not Obama, sorry. Trump. Oh, well, Mugabe was a champion at that. Was an absolute champion. Oh, Kim Jong Un, yeah. Yeah, Kim Jong Un. I think you guys know that there's several rules that you have to live by, but one of the rules is that all men in North Korea have to have his hairstyle. You have to have his hairstyle, which I find, yes, imagine loving yourself that much. So, guys, when we look at leadership and management, they are related, but they also are not related. They're related in the sense that in the workplace, we want somebody who is a great leader, who essentially has people's respect and has people's following him because of who he is, because of his characteristics, etc. But you want the great manager as well, because you have to be able to make sure that the different parts of the machine fits together. Now, in the ideal world, you'll have that. Somebody who has a great vision, somebody who is a really good guy, and then also very good at the technical, the practical aspects of getting the organization moving forward. Now, can I just say though, I think we've seen many examples of leaders who are very good at vision and creating a change, but are very good also at surrounding themselves with really good managers. So it's almost individuals that realize that my strength is visionary. It's creating vision. It's about looking in the future. But in order to give life to my vision, I need really good managers. I think the one misnomer about Steve Jobs is that Steve Jobs is the brains behind Apple, and he really isn't. He's the vision for Apple, but the brains initially was Steve Wozniak. Steve Wozniak did the coding. Steve Wozniak is the guy that gave the petrol to the engine. Where the engine was going in the car, the vision, that was what Steve Jobs did. So if we look at that, it's an interesting comparison. So so we start with vision and we break it down to mission statement, all of that stuff. But you can see it's great to have that, but you need that component, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the same person. In utopia, it is the same person, but the truth is sometimes you have to realize your own deficiencies, and that's why we bring someone else in. And you can see some of the other elements here. So this is the person that can influence without coercion, and this person is the way that essentially makes sure that everyone in the organization has the right stuff in the right place at the right time. In terms of motivating, here you can see the difference, and you can almost see that the words there down the management side are a lot more corporate, are a lot more management oriented. And I'm careful of my next word, and I don't really want to say it because I might be wrong, but that there sounds a little bit more harsh than those there. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that one. That bit there, it sounds a little bit more hard edged, where this sounds a little bit more compassionate. Am I reading it? Yeah, there is a little of that. These are also almost the sort of mechanics of the organization. This is the heart of the organization. So the soul of the organization sits here, and then in terms of the organization, the hands and the bits that do the work sit there. So, guys, when we look at leadership and power, I think the first thing we need to realize is that power gives you the ability to influence. Power gives you the ability to influence. He is fantastic at that, Tanya. He's absolutely fantastic. But I also think Rossi has the management hard stance when it's necessary. But you're 100% right. The way he surrounds himself with competent people, but also we have to give credit where credit is due. He is not a buffoon himself, but he has wonderful vision and a wonderful read of the world. So power is the thing that allows us to influence others. Okay. Now, the truth is some people have power and essentially don't use it. These are people who believe in a laissez-faire sort of style. We allow people to get on with things. The different forms of power. Okay. Legitimate power. Guys, who has the most legitimate power in the world? It's quite interesting. Who has the most legitimate power in the world? The Pope. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, Pope. Who else? I'm thinking, who my wife says in the background, she has just over me and my children. Guys, remember, for me, the person in charge of the most powerful nation in the world is Joe Biden. So when we think of legitimate power, it comes from the position you hold. And for me, yeah, no, Mandy, you disagree. Who is the most powerful country in the world? Tyrolee? You're going to say China. Um, yeah, I don't know about UK. I think in terms of the biggest economy, the biggest influence, we're looking at China versus America, but it doesn't matter. In an organization, the person with the most legitimate power will be the CEO, obviously. Money-wise, obviously, also very, very strong. Guys, the next one is the power of reward. And those of you that might have, you guys are also incredibly young, might have watched Trump and The Apprentice. That is power of the reward. Because if you didn't get fired, you were rewarded with a six-figure salary, and you had access to the company plane, you had access to the company helicopter. Yeah, so you had access to all those perks. Yeah, access to all those perks, guys. And then in terms of coercive power, this is power based on fear, absolute power based on fear. To also say, guys, part of the reward power, part of the thing you had access to was Ivanka Trump. No, obviously kidding. What's Donald Trump's daughter's name? I can't remember. Oh gosh, why can't I remember who she is? So if you were hired, you also had access to Ivanka. Obviously, I'm talking rubbish there, guys. Right, guys. And then in terms of referent power is charismatic power. Referent power is that undefinable set of characteristics that gives a person a certain level of energy. Fabian mentioned the Nelson Mandela earlier. People who said that when you meet Mandela, it was as if there was an invisible energy field around him, and that energy literally rubbed off on people. Do you think the Queen had reference power? I don't know about the Queen, but you see, I'm not a royalist, and I'm a bit of an anti-royalist. Referent power, guys, charismatic power. Any nice examples? Richard Branson is very good at charismatic stuff. Steve Jobs was very good at charismatic stuff. Politicians often are very good at charismatic stuff, guys. And then expert power based on the fact that you have certain skills and competencies. Expert power, give me examples of people that became very rich and very famous because of expertise. Princess Diana, I would put Princess Diana into referent power. So someone like Bill Gates, for example, guys, high level of expertise. Someone like Steve Wozniak from Apple, very, very high levels of expert power. And obviously, we can look at the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world as well. Yeah, and all those kinds of things. Oprah, to me, I think Oprah had high that stuff, Walter. I think she had real charisma, or has real charisma. You see, for me, expert power, the person I think about is Jeff Bezos, for example, as well. Right, guys, in terms of how we use power, I think sometimes you can do the legitimate request, and to do the legitimate request, you need legitimate power. So this is position power, and a legitimate request often can sound like an instruction depending on the actual leader. And then instrumental, yeah, rewards or compliance. So what we do is we will reward you on condition you display certain behaviors. And then, yeah, coercion, it's by fear. Punishment for not complying. Rational persuasion, and obviously here you start looking at explaining to people that it's in their best interests to do something. Yeah. And then personal identification, essentially, it's this idea of referent power, where people identify with the icon, the person, yeah, let's be honest, there are too many politicians that have charismatic power, guys. And then inspirational appeal. So you would say to the person, listen, this is for the good of the company. We have to do this for the good of the company. And then, yeah, my worst one, information distortion. Yeah, I think the simple fact of where we are in the world today is that there's so much and disinformation available that people get manipulated without realizing they're manipulated. All right, guys, let's look at leadership traits. The thinking in terms of leadership traits and trait theory is that leaders have a set of characteristics that are different. Oh gosh, is everyone else hearing me? Please bring my modem for me. Sorry, guys, I'm going to stick my dongle in because the fiber is really not great. I'm going to keep lecturing and then I'll put in my, yeah. Okay, guys, so in terms of traits, characteristics that set leaders apart, behaviors, the key thing in terms of behaviors is the belief that through training and exposure and experience, we could actually teach somebody to be a leader. So in terms of leadership traits, and it comes back to that old question, are leaders made or are they born? Leaders made or are they born, guys? Born. You can't teach leadership. Oh my gosh, then I'm missed. I teach leadership all the time. So you can't teach, okay, both. Interesting. Why do you say, Tara Lee, we can't teach leadership? You teach the concept. If people practice that concept, you don't think that that is sufficient to be a good leader? If you could learn the behaviors of a good leader, do you think the substance is missing because the person application is very different? Mandy says both. And okay, so experience. It's a very interesting one. You know, the idea, are leaders born or are they made? I think there are a lot of people that have avoided leadership because they believed that leaders are born and you can't take somebody and turn them into a leader. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Any other comments on that and why you say that? I quite like Leah. I quite like that explanation there. Anyone else? That comes from understanding and learning. It's interesting, guys, because earlier someone said emotional intelligence and spoke about emotional intelligence. So the question is, can we teach somebody to be emotionally intelligent? Okay. Interesting, Fabian. Can we teach somebody to be emotionally intelligent? I found this earlier and I shared it. Um, and yeah, I thought it might be appropriate to show that right now in terms of leadership. Isn't that what leadership is? Learning about it, unlearning the bad habits, and then relearning the good habits and updating. Interesting. You say you can't teach compassion. I might agree with you there, actually, Tyra Lee. So for me, in terms of leadership, I think you can learn to be a leader. You can learn to behave like a leader. My worry is we also get bad leaders. I think the middle one is where my concern is. A lot of people struggle to unlearn the tried and tested and then relearn their thinking. And I thought that was quite clever. Sorry. Okay. I just want to see. Okay, so this should be more stable now. I've moved away from my fiber. I'm on my 5G. Okay, guys, and then in terms of the other theories, yeah, this is a an interesting one. Um, the sort of initial the initial theories around the sort of the types of leaders that we find. You sometimes have job-centered leaders who tell you what to do, when to do, how to do it, and when to stop doing it. And then you have employee-centered leaders. These people are caring, they're compassionate, they understand the needs of employees. They through their decisions in the organization, address the needs of the employees. And obviously, can I just say, guys, for me, this is Elon Musk, this side. Job-centered, don't care about your own needs, don't bring your problems here. Has anyone or does anyone work for one of these buggers where everything is about job, 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 job? I don't care if you're ill. I don't care if your child is ill. You have to do, you will do it. I will tell you when you stop doing that. Or is anyone a leader like that? Anyone a leader like that? Okay. You guys are quiet tonight, making me work too hard. Guys, very similar to, and I want us to remember those two terms, job-centered and employee-centered, are the next couple of theories. So this top one would be job-centered, initiating structured behavior, and then consideration behavior would be employee-centered. So in terms of the specifics there, again, it comes to what you'll do, how you'll do, when you'll do, and when you'll stop doing it. Thoroughly 100%. I think the key thing is that we must never get to the point where it becomes a country club. We must never get to the point where we allow it to become a country club. Let me rather say that. It doesn't mean that we don't have standards, but I think we understand the human element in those standards, and the balance is spot on, and you're 100% right. Here we can see that. But guys, just be very careful. You can, in fact, get people performing at very high levels within that bottom climate. Is that possible? To if you're concerned and you've got the standards and everything, or should there be a plus sign, as Tyree says, between the two? One thing you want to avoid is you don't want a concentration camp and you don't want a country club type atmosphere, and you want the ideal between the two. Again, very, very similar in terms of the different kinds of behaviors, the employee versus job centered. The Ohio studies looked at including that situational influences will determine the kind of approach, whether it's more employee centered or whether it's more job centered. Give me an example of a situation where we need a more job centered view. A situation in an organization where we need a more job-centered view. We need to do this, we need to do it now, and we need to do it in this way. Are there times that that is appropriate? The pilot, yeah. The pilot mark, yeah, absolutely. Production, yeah. As I think of times of crisis. I think in a crisis situation, law enforcement, absolutely, Gerardo. I think in a crisis situation, when there is a crisis, you need somebody to take charge. Is that a fair comment? In a crisis, you always need that level headed person that can get people doing things that will avert the crisis from erupting into an explosion. I think times of crisis We need that kind of job-centered employee. When do we need an employee-centered employee? Leader, sorry, an employee-centered leader. In my mind, it's when times get tough, when you're asking people to work longer hours, when you asking people to help out to get the company through a dull type of period, which, if you perceive it, could also be considered a crisis, which brings, I suppose, the argument back to what Ireli said, the idea of balance. Okay. Guys, and then, yeah, leadership grid, exactly the same stuff. Concern for production versus concern for people, concern for production, job centered, people centered. What that one does, the leadership grid, it gives you those options. Okay. Now, in terms of Tyrolee's comment from earlier, that's where it fits in, where it's not about the organization and production and looking after shareholder and other interests. It's about, oh, we come here to relax and play. And I have a real issue with that. Here is the idea where you just completely laid back and you just let people get on with things. Here, you actively try and make the organization feel as if it is a holiday. Here, you have the autocrat. Um, and again, during times of crisis, we can argue that that's where we should be. The suggested ideal combination is that balance there, where you focus on production, but not at the expense of people. You focus on people, but not at the expense of production. So it is about creating this environment where we are highly competitive and we make it pleasant for people to be there, because to get the most out of people, they need an enjoyable workplace. If you ever get an opportunity, guys, hold on, I'll share the I'll share this very quickly with you. Yeah, I'll share this now. Hold on a second. I just want to find the right one. All right, give me a second. I just want to grab that. Guys, do yourselves a favor and watch that. Okay. It is that in action. Please just copy that off. You can watch it after and yeah, maybe just let us know what you think about it. But it's that in action in real life. And you are going to be surprised and also a little bit jealous of where these people work. Guys, and then just in terms of contemporary leadership, I think the simple truth is the world has evolved. The world has become this nut job place. And in order to survive a nut job place, you need people who are different in terms of their leadership approaches. So we've now seen the different situational models, and the belief of the situational model is that one of the successes that a leader depends on is his or her ability, is their ability to adjust their leadership style depending on the circumstances. So the first one here, Tannenbaum and Schmidt, and it really is the suggestion of how much the boss takes charge versus how much we allow employees freedom. And often we believe that when employees are not experienced, still learning the job, we will have a greater emphasis on that. But as employees learn the job and become more competent, you give them greater freedom, with the thinking being, and this is my belief, why would you want to tell someone how to do something when they already know how to do it? the worst thing a leader can do is to take competent people and treat them as if they're stupid, explain their job to them, explain the instructions with them. Has anyone ever worked with someone like that, where you surrounded by rock stars and you treat them like disasters? I don't know if that makes sense, guys. Initially, if employees are new, you need a lot of emphasis on that. But as employees become competent, you can start emphasizing that part. Was that not making sense? Oh, that's wonderful, Chels. You're very, very lucky. You're very, very lucky. I must admit, I have some really good people I work with. I'm not a good team player, which is my, yeah, I think it's my challenge. I am not the best team player in the world, and that's why I suppose I do what I do. Oh, that's wonderful, Chels. That's absolutely wonderful. It's an interesting theory, but it's yeah, it's not usable, or it's not that user friendly. The second one is the LPC, the least preferred coworker style. And the way this works is you answer a questionnaire, and it's obviously a psychometric questionnaire. And out of that, they discern the kind of person that you prefer to work with. So you find out the kind of person that this leader likes to lead. Okay. So give me quick comments on the kind of person that you like to lead. The ideal person that you lead, what should that person look like? And be honest. Quick learner. I like that, Tyrolee. Quick learner. Hard worker, willing to learn. Wonderful. Consistent. Nice. I quite like that, Mandy. Because the worst thing is having people who are erratic. Time is. Okay, so you guys focus on those kinds of things. Yeah. You see, if I had to answer that question myself, I think I like working with people who are there to be fantastic, who want to be amazing in their job. Okay. And if you think of what you're saying there, it really is a summary. I hope I've summarized. I love working with people who are go-getters and who want to make a difference, who want to be what I would call rock stars or talent in an organization. And it's quite interesting because all of those things fit quite nicely. So the first one is find out what this person prefers. Now, can I also just say, guys, yeah, and I worked with a really good guy, but for him, everything is about discipline and compliance. And I'm thinking, dude, that's really a strange way of looking at things. You get people who like to lead people who will listen, who like to lead people who will follow instructions and follow orders. I don't know if there's anyone here like that, because those innate tendencies, yes, this doesn't work for people who are competent. Guys, and then we see two types of leadership. So still in terms of that, the sort of business job oriented and employee oriented. Now, in terms of the situational favorableness, the thinking is that there are three things that will determine the kind of leader that you appoint. First of all, how well the leader gets on with the employees. And let's be honest, it's not always as Chels and I think Tyra Lee explains in terms of their own work. I think sometimes the relationship between leaders and employees is one that is antagonistic. It is one that is short of throwing rocks at each other. The second one is task structure. Is this a well defined task structure, or have we got a task structure where people are given more freedom in terms of figuring out how to do it? For me, there are two things: the job description that tells you what, when, how to do, and then the kind of approach that I like is we want this thing to do that. We don't care how you make it happen. And for me, I prefer the ability to use my initiative, and then how much power is vested in that position. Now, what is interesting in terms of this one, guys, is that the theory suggests that leadership style is innate, that leaders are so cast in stone in terms of their approach that they will always, if you're an autocrat now, you'll die an autocrat. If you're a democratic leader now, you'll die a democratic leader. And the belief here is if the leader doesn't fit the situation, you need to change the leader. So, depending on the leader, depending on the situation and the leader's natural tendencies to who they would like to lead, you would have to change the leader depending on obviously the circumstances. I see you said that, Tyra, that leadership style is innate, that people cannot be flexible in terms of their approach. Yeah. I think sometimes that is bloody true. But if we look at my picture from earlier, the learn, unlearn, relearn, can't we do that in terms of leadership? Yeah. Remember what I showed? Learn, unlearn, and relearn. Is that not also possible for lead? And I know what you mean, Fabian. Is that not possible for leadership style? Learn, unlearn, and relearn? I think it is possible. Guys, we see it in organizations. When an organization's brand new, you need an entrepreneurial type leader, the person that has great vision, knows how to appoint fantastic people, and allows people to perform. And as the company grows, you then get to a stable situation where you need a leader who has more management skills. And then you need a different kind of leader when the organization is going to close down. So for me, the thinking behind the theory is there that, some leaders cannot change what they can do. All right, guys, are you leaving us, Charles? Oh my gosh, it's 42 already. Okay, guys, I don't want to um, rush. In terms of the favorableness of situation, I think you must change the situation to match the leader because the leadership style is innate. I'll stop there today. My apologies for going over. I know that